Hi everybody, this is a video that I'm making to help parents learn how to tune their kids' violin and to just know basic things about how to take care of a violin. And so the first thing you'll need to know is that it would be great to get a better rosin for your kid. Depending on what you have that came with your violin, I recommend basically any type of rosin that looks like this. It comes with a cloth and it's round on the inside. This one in particular is called Gustav Bernardal, and you can get those at John Montgomery's Violin Shop in Raleigh, which is downtown Raleigh, or you can get them online off charmusic.com or on Amazon, anywhere really, just to get a better rosin for your kid than what's in your rental violin. Also, what you'll need are 2 cloths, and these are special cloths that you can get also at a violin store, but it doesn't really matter if you need to have these or not. Basically just any cloths that are nice and soft, and what I do is I take 1 cloth after every time I play to wipe the rosin off the strings. So I wipe it really good. And then I take the other colored cloth just so I know the difference between them both. And this cloth is going to be for wiping down the violin. So like right underneath the bridge, just anywhere. I even take it and you can put it through the strings here. And it can go underneath your fingerboard here. You can go all the way down just to get all that rosin dust under there. So that's what you can use the cloths for. That's very important to do after you play every time, just because the rosin that gets on the violin under here can actually eventually take off the varnish of the violin. So it's good to just keep it nice and wiped and clean. And to show you how to do the rosin, speaking of rosin, what you do is you can actually take anything sharp. So here I'm going to use just the edge of the nail clippers because that's what's most handy, but you can also take a key, and what you're going to do is just take it and you're going to scratch the top of that rosin until you see some of that white powdery stuff, the rosin dust coming out. And then what you do is you take your bow and you're going to scrub all the way down. Tell kids it's as if they're taking a shower. They're putting soap on their bodies. So you scrub all the way down, all the way back up. And the way you know that you have enough rosin on your bow is you actually test it. So you take your violin and you play it, and you look at your strings, and if you can actually see a little bit of white powdery stuff, or the rosin on the strings, then you know you have enough. You can also tell just if it actually sticks to the strings. If you don't have rosin on your bow, it won't stick to the strings. So you can re-rosin your bow pretty much every time you use it. Depends really on how much rosin that you put on it initially. If you have too much rosin on it, then you won't need to rosin the next time. So it's kind of one of those things that you feel out, but I would say basically every time, or if not every other time that you take your bow out of the case. And what else you will need is a tuner for your violin, and you could either get an actual tuner online. This is just one that I got. It's called Intelli IMT-301, and the reason I got this tuner is because it is also a metronome. Metronome meaning it can play the beats so you can keep on rhythm. So this is good for kids to have eventually, so they'll keep a steady tempo. And it also will tell you if your pitch is too high or too low, and that's very important, especially for people who don't have much experience with tuning. So for instance, if I sing ah, the little dial, as you could probably see, is moving back and forth, and it's telling you if it's too high or too low. And then it also has a setting where you can hear the pitch. So that's one option, is to get a tuner like this, and it doesn't have to be this one. It can just be any tuner that has the option to be a metronome and to show you if it's too high or too low and to play the sound. And there's tons of different types of tuners out there. Yeah, so you can either get this one or any really online. You could read the reviews. So there's that, and there's also, if you have an iPhone, I recommend downloading the app that's called Musician's Kit. And I will use this one today while we're tuning, just so for those of you who have iPhones, you will get to know how this works. And maybe I'll actually go back and forth between both, just for whoever has a real tuner and whoever has the iPhone app. And for all of this stuff, there's actually a document on my website called Tuning the Violin. So this is all written down for you as well if you're more of a visual learner and you need a step-by-step process to remember how to do it. So that's on my website. And okay, so the first thing that we should talk about with the violin is the names of the strings. So when you're holding up the violin or when you're looking at it, the thinnest string here and the highest string is called the E string. And the strings go E, A, D, G. So students, remember, elephants always dig graves. And that's very important for you to remember, because that's going to help you get your kid's violin in tune so you know which letter name you're trying to tune to. So the string that I start with is the A string. And that's what most people start with. Even if you go to an orchestra concert, they will tune to the A string first. And that's just because it's in the middle of the bridge. And if you start on this side, for instance, and you're tuning this side and then you tune this string, it's going to actually warp the bridge and turn it a little bit. So it's actually better to start in the middle and go gradually to this side and then to come back to this side. We'll do that. So we'll start with the A first. And what you should know about the A is that it is called A440 because it vibrates at 440 hertz per second. So I will show you on this tuner. It actually says 440 on there. And as you see, what I'm doing is I'm plucking the A string here. Actually, let me put this tuner somewhere else so you'd be able to see it. So here is a music stand this way. I won't need two hands. Okay. Oh, can't see that way. Perfect. Hopefully you can see that. I'll make it a little closer. Okay, so you can see that the little dial is moving back and forth and it's either red or green. So what I'm doing here is plucking the A string. And actually, if you might have noticed, it went green. Now it went a little red. So since it's a little bit red and it actually went too far to the right, that means that the pitch is too high. So what we do then is, if it's still an A, so it's the right letter name for the note, what you're going to do if it's only a little bit off, like it's a little bit too high, I should say first actually that you want the little dial to be in the center where it turns green, because that means it's in tune. But if it's a little bit to the right, that means it's too high. And so what you'll do is take your kids, you'll find the A string, and you'll go down to the tuner down here. And actually my violin doesn't have any tuners down here. Most professional violins don't. But we're just going to pretend today that there's a tuner down here. And you're going to turn that dial down here to the right. And you're going to turn it clockwise. And you're going to really want to turn it a lot. So you're going to turn it, and let's say that I've turned it. Now I'm going to see if that's changed anything on the dial, and it should. And let's pretend that I turned it to the right, and now it is actually in tune. Now, oh, I'm sorry, I told you the wrong way. So if the note originally is too high, then you're going to want to turn the dial to the left to make it lower. But, so reverse what I originally said. But if the dial is too far to the left, that means it's too low, so that you're going to want to turn it to the right to make it go higher. So think righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So you turn to the right, the pitch goes up. You turn it to the left, and the pitch goes down. So really just pay attention to where that dial is in comparison to the center. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, if you're plucking, what is the A string? And if you're plucking that and it's saying something like, So what if it says G on the tuner and you're plucking the A string? What does that mean? That means that your string is pretty out of tune. And so I wrote out a little musical alphabet, and this is also online. And because knowledge of the musical alphabet is very important to be able to tune a kid's violin. So you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it actually comes back around, it ends at G, and it goes back to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So that's how the musical alphabet works. So let's pretend like we're at A and it's 440, and we hear a G, or the tuner is telling us that it's actually playing a G. Now that means that the note is going to be the note is too low, and it's really low. It's not even an A anymore. So when that happens, when it's not even an A anymore, what you're going to do is come up here and you're going to use the peg up here. So you're going to find the A string and you're going to find which peg it goes to. So in this case, it's this peg. And this is the part that's you got to be very, very careful about on tuning a violin, because this is the way that strings break a lot. So the way that you do it is you're going to just turn it. You're going to want to get a good grip up here, and you're going to want to turn it just a tiny, tiny bit. I barely even turned it, and I actually pushed in to keep that peg in there. Now don't be afraid to push it in the violin. I've never had anything break by pushing it in there, but that's very important, because if you don't, the peg is going to unravel and the string will unravel. So you want to turn it up a little bit to make the pitch go higher to be an A, and you're going to push it into the violin. And so let's see on the tuner what that gave us. So that gave us a G sharp. Now here's where more musical knowledge comes in. Here is G on the musical alphabet. Right in between G and A, there's a G sharp. Sharp meaning you see the little number symbol. So G sharp, that's what my tuner said. That is right in between A right there. And for instance, the note between A and B would be A sharp, A with a number symbol, like that. So if we see that our tuner says G sharp, that means it's only a little bit below A. So what you could safely do, since it's only a little bit below A, is you can actually use your fine tuner down here, which I don't have, but you could use on your kid's violin. So you're going to want to find the A string, and you're going to want to turn it to the right to make the pitch go up. And you're going to crank it, crank it, crank it, until you pluck and it makes an A 440. See, so it takes a little bit of, you turn it, you pluck it, you see where it is. Oh, that was too low. Okay, I'm going to keep cranking it to the right, clockwise, and you'll see where it ends up. Right now, since I don't have tuners, I have to do it with my peg. So I'm going to go ahead and get it in tune here. Cool, my violin is very close to being in tune. It's almost at the middle, so I'm just going to leave that for now. So once you've done the A string, as complicated as that is, you can go to the D string. So let's check my D string. I'm going to pluck it. My D string is right in tune. Let's check my G string. Okay, now I'm going to make this one out of tune, just for sake of what's probably going to happen to your kids' violins. So I pluck it. Let's say I took this out of the case and it's out of tune. And it's at an F or an F sharp, the F number symbol. Now if we've got G here for the G string, and we hear an F or an F sharp, that means that the pitch is going to be too low, because F comes before G in the alphabet. So since we know it's too low, and it's really too low, it's a whole letter name too low, that's when we know we're going to have to use the peg up here, because this is for when it's really out of tune, or it's a whole letter name off. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to find the G string, which peg it belongs to. Okay, it's this peg. And I'm going to turn it up, and I'm going to push it in. Good, so I tried that, and now I pluck it to see where it's at. It's a little bit too low. Now if it's a G though. If it's a G and it's just a little bit too low, you're going to actually use the tuner here to turn it up. So you're going to crank it just a little bit, and you're going to pluck it again and see if you got it in tune. If not, you just keep trying until you get it right in tune. So since I don't have tuners, I'm going to tune it with just the peg. And also tune my D string, because that one Okay. And now, so once you've tuned the A, the D, and the G string, then you can go over and tune the E string. Now the E string you have to be very, very careful with, because as you can see, it's very small and thin, and it has a lot of tension to it. So if you ever need to turn the peg for the E string, do it very, very carefully, and make sure you're only turning it like microscopic amounts and that you're pushing it in to the scroll up here. So let's test my E string. Most of the time, E's, you just need to use the fine tuner down here, because they only go out of tune a little bit. But every once in a while, you'll get a violin whose E string is way off, and you'll have to turn the peg up here. But once again, just be very careful with that. And this actually reminds me, if you're tuning a violin and let's say you accidentally do it too hard or something happens and it breaks, unfortunately, the only thing you can do is just buy a new string. And the other unfortunate thing is that strings cost a lot of money. They're about $20 per string. But you can get those strings either at sharmusic.com, and that is spelled S-H-A-R music.com. They've got great sales, and they have free shipping over $20. So you can get them off there, or you can get them off Amazon, or you can go to a local Music and Arts or another Sam Ash, another store around here. And the type of string that I recommend getting is, they're called dominant strings. There are tons of different types of strings, and eventually your kid will try out different ones and see which ones they prefer, but just in the beginning I recommend getting dominant strings. So yeah, I think that covers most of it. Like I said again, tuning the violin, that sheet is on my website, just in case you want a printed out step-by-step version of how to do this. But hopefully this video helped you be able to know how to tune your kid's violin, which will make it easy for them to practice. But again, if you have any major issues, just have your kid bring in the tuner to class or to their lessons if they take private lessons, and I'd be glad to help them and fix any issues that I can. So hopefully this is helpful, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.